Welcome in to News and Views with Tom Lamprecht. The stories you've heard and the ones you need to hear.
The midterm elections, intense debates.
It's ridiculous for him to accuse me of being anything.
What you are attempting to do is continue the lie that you've told so many times.
How dare you, sir?
You have 30 seconds.
Senator Lee, it is not a prop.
Going to report fraud, DOT.gov.
Russia deepening an alliance with Iran.
Suicide drones.
Your life, your values, your voice. This is News and Views with Tom Lamprecht on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome in. The FBI has some explaining to do about the Russian collusion scam. Let me first take you to an article out of PJ Media that came out earlier today, and I'll get to the breaking story that Igor Danchenko has basically been found not guilty of the 4 remaining counts against him about lying to the FBI. This article came out this morning from PJ Media. A Virginia federal jury resumes deliberation today in the trial of Igor Danchenko. Danchenko is accused of lying to the FBI about the made-up Steele dossier, a fanciful and perverted collection of scraps, baseless allegations, and rumors that Hillary Clinton's campaign contrived to link Donald Trump to the Kremlin, as has become crystal clear in the Danchenko trial and the Durham's previous trial of Democrat lawyer Michael Sussman. Hillary Clinton was the only one working with the Russians and the ties to the Kremlins to fund her Russian collusion propaganda op. Indeed, one wonders if the Steele dossier itself could have been Russian disinformation, but don't ask the FBI, because as special counsel John Durham amply pointed out in the Danchenko trial, the premier law enforcement agency in the land was spectacularly incurious about the truthfulness of the guy they paid $200,000 to be a confidential human source, to hide him under the guise of protecting sources and methods. As with Durham's previous unsuccessful prosecution of the Democratic National Committee's DNC and Hillary Clinton's lawyer Michael Sussman, the FBI was incurious in order to keep the fake news about Donald Trump going. If you want someone to go to jail for this corrosive and explosive Democrat information operation to manipulate an election using the FBI, the CIA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, FISA, and a slavish media, don't get your hopes up, even though Durham's prosecution has shown FBI manipulation of Danchenko. The FBI isn't technically on trial here. In fact, the charges made them out to be as the aggrieved party. Durham's team put 2 FBI analysts on the stand who served on the original Crossfire Hurricane investigation and Mueller special counsel probe. Brittany Herzog, an intelligence analyst and supervisory special agent Amy Anderson, testified that Mueller's team didn't seem to want to find out more about the sub-sources for the dossier. Herzog testified that she discovered that a source for the dossier was Clinton ally Charles Dolan, a PR exec who met with Danchenko in Moscow and worked with the Russian government. Indeed, she met with another source for the dossier in Cyprus, Olga Gilgana, who had ties with Putin's confidant Dmitry Peskov. Herzog told the Durham team on the stand it was an important fact because Mr. Danchenko was identified as being the source for the Steele dossier, and connectivity between Mr. Dolan and Danchenko was important, especially considering Mr. Dolan's connectivity to Dmitry. She considered this connection to be a national security threat. Her FBI supervisor shelved the information, and she was told not to investigate Mr. Dolan and not to take further action. But about Danchenko's connection to Hillary Clinton and the Kremlin ally Dolan. It's almost as if the FBI and Mueller team didn't want to know, or they knew and thought the story was just too political to helpful to check. One of the counts against Danchenko was dropped over the legal definition of the word talked. Durham's team claimed that Danchenko lied about talking to a source, but had tried to reach him via email. Either way, Danchenko lied about ever communicating with him, according to Durham, but pretended he was a sub-source for the dossier. Danchenko had said the source, Sergei Milian, told of a well-developed conspiracy of cooperation between the Trump campaign and Russian officials. Evidence presented at the trial showed that Danchenko never communicated with Milian. Milian was also spooked at being called a source, and he fled the United States with his wife and kids. The 4 other counts against Danchenko alleged he lied to his incurious FBI handler, Special Agent Kevin Helson. Helson was destroyed on the stand by Durham, who undertook a detailed analysis of what an investigator is supposed to do, none of which Helson did. In closing arguments, Durham, who led the prosecution, outlined the 4 times Danchenko lied to the FBI and argued that those lies were material to how agents handled the case. However, Durham said jurors might realize that the FBI mishandled the investigation, but the government is not here to defend the FBI's performance in these matters. Say all that to say, as a preamble, sorry it was so long, but a jury today found the Russian national Igor Danchenko, the primary subsource of the anti-Trump dossier, not guilty of all 4 counts of making false statements to the FBI. Am I disappointed? Yes. Am I surprised? Not really. Sorry to sound so cynical, but had Danchenko gone down, as this article said, okay, you could look at what was going on there and say to yourself that, oh, well, the FBI was actually the grieved party. Well, yeah and no. If Danchenko had gone down, it would have gotten a lot tougher for the FBI. Danchenko was their guy. He was on the payroll. The FBI offered $1 million to Christopher Steele if he could verify the dossier. I mean, it is pretty obvious that the FBI was certain people at the FBI, certain decision makers, certain uppity-ups at the FBI were clearly working against Donald Trump and for Hillary Clinton. That's very clear. How bad would it have gotten if Danchenko had gone down? Now, again, they can say, well, you lied to the FBI, but the FBI is in this up to their necks. So what am I getting at? I guess I'm getting at when you are putting on trial indirectly the strongest investigative arm of the Department of Justice, the strongest investigative police organization maybe in the world, and they don't want to look bad, do you think you're going to get a fair trial? Do you think the jury was, I don't know, I'm speculating here, but the FBI is not going to go down easy. Am I saying that, well, listen, it's pretty obvious here that the FBI was not following their mandate. It was not following the Constitution. It was not following their mission statement. How dare they get involved in the politics of a presidential election? That's exactly what they did. And this is a big part. I don't think Durham did a bad job. I wasn't watching. Well, I mean, we didn't know everything that he did, but he's been working on this for months, years. And what looked like it ought to have been a slam dunk wasn't. It was because the prosecutors were inept? I don't think so. I'm just saying I don't think so. What was it? I think when you take on the FBI, you're going to have real challenges. And you're taking them on in their neck of the woods, in their zip code, up in Northern Virginia, where they're headquartered. You connect the dots. News and Observer is reporting Madison Cawthorn is scheduled to appear in court on January the 13th in the case stemming from his bringing a loaded handgun to the Charlotte airport. Now, by the way, on January, did I say June or say January? Okay, I did say January. On January the 13th, Representative Madison Cawthorn will be former Representative Madison Cawthorn. Don't expect him to see any special treatment. The Mecklenburg County District Attorney's Office told reporters today Cawthorn's trial is set for January the 13th. The freshman congressman has not entered a plea. Cawthorn, 27-year-old Republican, charged with possession of a dangerous weapon on a city property after airport security officers found the handgun in a bag in April. Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department officers confiscated the 9mm handgun, released Cawthorn, which is standard protocol, police said at the time. Cawthorn was scheduled to have an initial appearance today. His attorney handled everything on his behalf. This guy went down in flames, and he was, I'm not going to rehash it all, but I've said before, this guy embraced political rhetoric, but his arrogance and his lifestyle, he was his own worst enemy. East Carolina University has come out with a new poll, and good news for Ted Budd, not so good news for Sherry Beasley. The latest ECU poll of the U.S. Senate election in North Carolina, conducted October the 10th through the 13th, shows Ted Budd leading Beasley 50% to 44%. Now, up to now, it's been neck and neck. The most we've seen thus far was basically Ted Budd up. Well, there was a one poll out with him being up 4 percentage points. Most of them had him up by 1 or 2. Several earlier polls from the summer had it just neck and neck, tied. Going back earlier than that, Beasley was up. But now, again, this is an ECU poll, and ECU has done pretty well in their polling in terms of their accuracy when Election Day comes around. So they've got Ted Budd up by 6 percentage points. That is huge. Can Beasley overcome that in 3 weeks from today? Not likely. Budd's most notable gains have come from women. Beasley currently leads Budd 48% to 46% among women. However, Beasley led Budd 52% to 41% of likely female voters in early September. Budd still holds a significant advantage among men, 54% to 39%. Among working-class white voters, defined as those without a 4-year college degree, Budd leads 50% over Beasley. Budd holds a much narrower advantage over Beasley, 51% to 44% among white voters with a 4-year college degree. Among likely African-American voters, Beasley holds almost an 8-to-1 advantage, 83% to 11% over Budd. Senior voters, age 65, support Budd over Beasley, 58% to 37%. Beasley, however, holds a 48% to 42% advantage among voters under the age of 40. For those between the ages of 40 and 64, Budd leads 50% to 44%. Anyway, the key number overall is Budd is up for all voters, 50% to 44%. Town Hall is got a story out concerning Georgia Republican Senate candidate Herschel Walker, who had the perfect response when pressed by an NBC reporter to find one area of agreement with Joe Biden. Let me ask you this question, because if you're elected to the U.S. Senate, you're going to have to work with President Biden. This was asked by NBC reporter Kristen Welker. Here is the give and take from that interview, cut 1.
You're going to have to work with President Biden and Democrats in order to get anything done.
That's right.
So let me ask you, can you name one thing that President Biden has done that you support?
One thing that he's done that I support. He eat a lot of ice cream.
Is there anything policy-wise?
Policy-wise that he's done that I support. You want to run down his policy? Because he's been doing a lot of things since he's been there. Executive orders, just like signing that student bill that I think was terrible.
Common ground you think you could find with Democrats?
That's what's so funny. I'm willing to work across the aisle with any of them. I work with anyone for the people of Georgia, anyone that's want to help. But can you name a bill that's going to help? And now I'm not putting you on the spot, but give me something that within the inflation reduction that's going to help without taking money from their pocket and stuff that they're paying for.
Let me go back to the original question, though. What's the one? Is there one thing? Is there
that's
one
what I'm saying. I may have to think
that President Biden has done that?
I may have to think about it. That's what I'm saying. And I'm sorry to tell you this. I may have to think about it because it seems like since he got into office, everything has gone down the drain.
Take a minute and think about it. Is there one thing?
Okay, let me think about it. One thing that he's put in that I will agree with.
That you would agree with.
This is going to be a while.
He actually did come up with one thing. He said, I agree with one thing, but Biden didn't do it. When he said he would be the unifier, we all saw that he wasn't. And then he called the opposition names. So that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to think about what he's done. Meanwhile, when Walker's opponent, Raphael Warnock, who went and voted early today, was asked to explain why Georgia voters should give him another chance with inflation soaring on their watch, this is all he could come up with. Cut 2.
We've been talking to a lot of voters who say the economy is a top issue for them. Democrats have been in control of the White House, of Congress for the past 2 years. Inflation has soared. Why should Georgia voters give you another chance?
We are still in the throes of a pandemic that dragged on for more than 2 years.
That's the best he can come up with. You know, if you get a chance, go online, go on the internet, and do a search engine for both these stories. Actually, the story showed up on Town Hall, so you can actually see those interviews on Town Hall and those Q&As. But what was really interesting about it, and I think it comes through in just the audio, but when you see the video of those two men, Herschel Walker answering the question, and then Warnock, very uncomfortable, where Herschel Walker is projecting confidence in his answer. His tone, his demeanor. I mean, he's got a smile on his face. He's laid back. He's easygoing as he answers the question. People are really, the critics of Herschel Walker are looking at him and saying, he's not polished. Now, listen, I would agree in some aspects that he's not polished, but in many other aspects, I find his demeanor, his presentation so refreshing. I mean, he's so down to earth and he's so relaxed. I mean, a big part of when you say, okay, he's a polished politician, is he relaxed? Can he answer the questions and not lose his composure? And listen, he did that the other night, Friday night in the debate, never lost his composure. He didn't lose his composure in this NBC interview. But I would submit to you that Warnock, when he was asked, he was very uncomfortable about, well, how do you explain this inflation? There was a long pause, and then he had, he's scrambling for something. Well, we're still in the throes of a pandemic. No, we're not. I really think that those two sound bites, now, are those two sound bites alone going to tell you the outcome of the election? Well, I can't say that, but I would say that it does reflect one campaign that is rather relaxed going into Election Day 3 weeks from today, and it shows another campaign that looks rather worried, looks rather uptight in just the answer. As a follow-up, today, Herschel Walker was doing a press conference. In fact, the press conference had to do with the fact that while Warnock gets a $7,000 housing allowance from the Ebenezer Church, at the same time, they are throwing out, evicting people from an apartment complex building, high-rise, that the church owns for one individual owed like $28, and they got an eviction notice. But I think the total amount of everyone that was being evicted, the cumulative amount was less than what Warnock gets from the church for just 1 month housing allowance. Now, Warnock in the debate said, no, that's not happening. We're not evicting anyone. That's not true. Which, by the way, of course, Warnock is a pastor, and Herschel Walker turns around and says, wait a minute, thou shalt not bear false witness. Well, again, just a very relaxed candidate is Herschel Walker. So while they're making this presentation at this press conference, someone shows up by the last name of Fletcher and says out loud so everyone could hear it. And there were individuals that were not with the Herschel Walker campaign, were there as freelance photographers, verified the fact that this individual showed up and said, this is all a stunt, talking of Walker, this is all a stunt. He is nothing but a House N-word. He is nothing but a House N-word. Now, the protester, the foul-mouthed protester, identified himself as Maceo Fletcher, yelled at Walker following the press conference. Now, what's interesting is CNN and CBS were there at the press conference. And while there were multiple witnesses that heard this and verified that this guy said this, CNN and CBS never followed up with this guy Fletcher saying, what are you doing? Who sent you here? I mean, you know that this wasn't just an individual that showed up and decided to do this. Now, I have no empirical evidence that's the case, but my strong hunch is he was some Democrat, whether it was Warnock's campaign or someone else, sent him there to do this. One Herschel Walker campaign staffer told Fox that Fletcher said, in addition, this is all a stunt. He's nothing but a House N-word. He also said he's a joke. He tap dances, and he's a House N-word. The press conference was right outside Columbia Towers. Again, this is the high-rise apartment building that is owned by the Ebenezer Church. So, in essence, this, by the way, this race is now considered a toss-up. But in essence, this Fletcher person, whom is a Warnock lackey, a lemming, is saying that Herschel Walker was running as a Republican strictly because he's black. We've said it before. I'll say it again. To run as a Democrat, now, I mean, anybody can run as a Democrat, but I mean, as you get high up the list, Exhibit A, Kamala Harris, there are a series of boxes you have to check off. This is called intersectionality. And this is the scripture for the Democrat Party. This is the woke Bible, the woke doctrine. The more boxes you check off, the better qualified you are. This is how they qualify people to run for office, people to be their leaders. So if you're a woman, you get one check. If you're a black woman, you get another check. If you're homosexual, you get another check. If you're transgender, oh my goodness, then you get another check. A vegan, whatever. Bestiality, that probably gets you checked too. And again, Kamala Harris, would she have ever been considered if she was not a black woman? Certainly if she's a white male, I mean, out of the question. The only way that she would have been passed up if there was somebody else amongst the Democrats that was a black lesbian woman. In that case, Kamala Harris would have gotten passed over. But for them to point to Herschel Walker, in essence, to say he's just a token. Really. I mean, this is what the Democrats live and die by. This is their mantra. This is their doctrine. And as is typical, as you see it happening right now more and more, and a number of issues, whether it's security at the border, whether it's abortion, whether it's crime, they're all now, inflation, it's the Republicans' fault. And they think that somehow this is going to work. Not looking good for the Dems in the midterms. We'll have more on this when we get back.
Reserve your ride before it's gone at Greenville Toyota. A huge Toyota shipment is here. Camrys, Corollas, RAV4s, Tundras, and more. Reserve the one you want now. Plus, you'll always get paid to trade at Greenville Toyota. Hurry in. Click greenvilletoyota.com.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human, about creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Pirate fans, time to get back in black this week as the Pirates host American rival UCF Saturday night at 7:30. It's our Painted Black game. Tickets are still available for as low as $50 in the lower bowl or $35 in the upper level. Break out your best Pirate gear in black for East Carolina and UCF. It's the Pirates and the Knights, Saturday night at 7:30 at Dottie Ficklen Stadium.
A huge Toyota shipment just arrived at Greenville Toyota, and more are coming. Reserve your ride now and get the Greenville Advantage with no-cost maintenance, oil changes, free loaners, car washes, tire rotations, and more at greenvilletoyota.com. As the clock, here we go again, counts down.
The American people are going to have an opportunity this fall
to November 8th
to give a midterm report card.
The rhetoric,
character assassination
is heating up.
They don't really care about facts and truth.
I have never seen an election cycle like this one.
It's whatever's going to make the opposition look bad.
Midterm election coverage happens here.
We are taking our country back.
The game of politics gets exposed. And this is Eastern Carolina's place to talk with Tom and Benny on News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Welcome back in. It is National Chocolate Cupcake Day. I have not had I have not had a chocolate cupcake, national or statewide.
Inconceivable!
for a long, long time. Just saying, if you're listening, dear. It is, I mean, we need to be patriotic, right? National Chocolate Cupcake Day. Cold tonight. Yeah. Will some areas see frost? I wouldn't be surprised. The predicted low for tonight, 36. Tomorrow, sunshine, a high of 61 with a low tomorrow night of 35. Warms up just a tad on Thursday, a high of 66 with sunny skies. Clear skies Thursday night with a low of 38. So put a log on the fire and an extra quilt on the bed. Weather brought to you by our friends at the Ironwood Golf and Country Club. Whether you're looking to spend your fall courtside or greenside, Ironwood Golf and Country Club offers a variety of memberships tailored to fit your lifestyle with no initiation fee required. And listen, if you're headed down to the beach this fall, pack your clubs. Ironwood members receive reciprocal golf and dining privileges at the Beaufort Club in Beaufort, Compass Point Golf Club and Magnolia Greens located near Wilmington. For more information, contact Membership Director Jenna Doyle. Her number is 252-752-4653. Join in the fun at Ironwood today, a part of the Renaissance Golf Group. The Dems have nothing as they go into the midterm elections. By the way, we still have our weather graphic up there, Clark. I mean, they have absolutely nothing as we go into the midterms. Joe Biden today promised that the first bill he sends to Capitol Hill next year will be one that codifies Roe v. Wade. If Democrats control enough seats in Congress for Biden to sign abortion protections into law. It was a speech designed to energize his party's voters just 3 weeks ahead of the November midterms. Did they read the same thing that's out there for everybody else? I mean, I know they probably listen to, the mainstream media, which does not present a realistic pulse of the flavor of the American people out in mid-America. I mean, the people in D.C. and New York live in their little glass bubbles, and they never go outside that. But the American voter doesn't care about Roe v. Wade right now. And yet, we talked about this the other day. When we had Ted Budd on, Beasley just got, I think, was it $10 million, and she's going to campaign on the abortion issue. Just today, Nancy Pelosi was on with Andrea Mitchell. And she said, I've been out in the highways and byways. I've been in 5 states. I'm 5 states a week. And listen, this is what women are voting on. No, it's not. I mean, there's some that will vote on this, but the majority of the voters, this is not that important. I mean, other shows up higher than abortion does in some of this polling. If you care about the right to choose, then you got to vote, Biden says during the remarks at the Howard Theater in Washington. He urged those in attendance to recall how they felt when the Supreme Court in late June overturned the landmark 1973 ruling that legalized abortion. Yeah, that was back in June, Joe. And they have forgotten about it. And it's your fault that your party is not going to win. Because, and I must say your fault, you're a puppet. We understand that. It's probably Obama and George Soros that are pulling the strings. But it's those policies, those woke policies, the fact that you have decimated our energy. Oh, and by the way, at least I forget, Joe has come out and said how many more millions barrels is he going to flush down the toilet so that we are really going to be in a pickle if, and that's putting it lightly. I mean, this is a national security issue. Joe is depleting, literally depleting. It'll be the least amount of strategic oil reserves we have had in 40 years, which is interesting. The highest inflation in 40 years and the least amount of oil in our strategic supply. This is a national security issue, and it is not only a national security issue is because if something were to happen, as something as innocuous, a hurricane could knock us out, but certainly if we were to have some sort of military conflict, it could be a major issue. But then he basically says to Saudi Arabia, when they don't kiss his rear end and, jump up and salute Joe Biden when he asks for more oil output, he basically says there will be consequences for Saudi Arabia. And listen, there was a crown prince over there who basically has come out and said anybody that challenges the existence of this country, talking about Saudi Arabia and this kingdom, all of us are products of the jihad and martyrdom. That's my message to anybody that thinks they can threaten us. Is that what it is, 100 million barrels? No. Biden's latest decision marks more than 200 million barrels set for release. In less than 2. No, I mean, okay, that's the total. My producer, Clark, is whispering in my ear. That's the total. So, yeah, the newest amount is probably an additional 100 million. But listen, he is doing this to basically to control an election. It's going to control the outcome of election. Now, remember what Donald Trump was impeached for. That phone call with the Ukrainian president. Who he said, "Well, you're trying to control the outcome of the election." I mean, that was a stretch to come to that conclusion. This is not a stretch at all. 561-8255. Ernie's on the line. Hey, Ernie.
Hey, Tom. Listen, everything you say is well and good, but we need to change the trajectory of our country. I live in Carteret County. Traditionally, it's been 70-30 Republican versus Democrat. It's been that way for 22 years that I've lived here. and I'm sure it is close to that where you are, but
no,
the rest of the country.
not in Pitt County. I wish it was, but go ahead.
Okay. yeah. This has been the way the voting here is, but if we can't change the trajectory of our country right now, we're talking a couple days from now for early voting. We are done as the country we know in the one I grew up in. I'm 77 years old, so I've been through it all. The whole thing, the Vietnam, all that stuff, and we need to do something real quick, or we are done.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I empathize with where you are. It's hard for me to disagree with your analysis. I will say, though, in our darkest days, we do the pendulum does seem to swing. My concern is not whether or not the people will vote for the right candidates. I'm pretty confident they will. I still have a concern, will we have a fair election? I think there is such resistance to emptying out the deep state that I think the deep state will do anything. I mean, I think this Danchenko verdict that came out earlier this afternoon is a reflection of the deep state not wanting to give an inch. So I am not optimistic over us having a fair election. This is why we need a tsunami. I mean, we do need a tsunami in this coming election, because I think there is going to be some questionable procedures. And as Carrie Lake said earlier, I don't know if it was last night or earlier today, this whole bit about when election deniers, she pulled out a list of 150 times that the Democrats have been election deniers. So it's is there criticism over the process? Well, there certainly was, in my estimation. There ought to be a lot of criticism over the process in 2020. But I agree with you. I mean, this ought to be a turning point, and every conservative American out there needs to get on their knees and have personal repentance and beg to our Father, Heavenly Father, please have mercy on us. I'm dead serious when I say this. Please have mercy on us, because I will say this: if this is not a huge swing in the conservative direction, it's not going to be pretty. Thank you for the call, sir. Appreciate it. Hey, listen, we've got to take another time out. Sorry I went too long in the first segment. Stay with us. I'll be right back.
In fourth down, seconds on the clock. He hands it off. Finds a hole in the middle. Clear. Nothing but incredible. A touchdown for the win. I can't believe it.
Pizza, better with Pepsi. Empty lots at car dealers everywhere, except here. The selection you want is at Greenville Nissan. And during the Nissan Thrill of the Drive sales event, buy a new Nissan with financing as low as 0.9%. The versatile Nissan Rogue, the all-new Pathfinder, or gas-saving cars like Nissan Sentra and Altima. And yes, we have trucks. Buy the new Nissan Titan with 0.9% financing, or the all-new Frontier for $99 a month. Hurry to Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Well, my baby does gives me special love. It's the kind of stuff.
Honey, it's your turn.
I'm on cloud nine.
Pizza, better with Pepsi.
This is your Drive at 5 and ENC with Tom Lamprecht. Welcome back to News and Views on Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
Remember how I was just saying earlier how Democrats want to project what they are doing wrong onto Republicans? Interesting that Eric Swalwell, a.k.a. the Fang Fang lover, he has gotten some new ads out for his campaign. And basically he is saying that MAGA Republicans want women arrested for having an abortion, which is totally off the wall. I mean, again, I mean, all my listeners know this. The overturning of Roe v. Wade through the Dobbs decision, it merely sends it back to the state. It's up to the states to decide. And yet, who's getting arrested? It's not the pro-abortion crowd that's getting arrested. It's the pro-life crowd that's getting arrested. By the way, speaking of Eric Swalwell's first 9 months of 2022 is raising questions, a spending report for the first 9 months of 2022, raising questions about Swalwell. Rob Pyers, research director for California Target Book, a nonpartisan group that provides information on congressional and state legislative election campaigns in the Golden State, recently posted a list showing Swalwell using proxy voting, the second most out of all House members, while also spending more than $250,000 in travel expenses. So in other words, he's staying home because of the pandemic that, according to Warlock, we're still in. That's why inflation is not under control, because of the pandemic. But he spent $250,000 while he was working from home on travel expenses. As Republican Thomas Massey has reported and pointed out, while it may have been justified, this proxy voting at the beginning of the pandemic, it is now being abused by members. It's still going on. This proxy voting for the pandemic is still going on. It's being abused by members who are campaigning for other offices or raising money. But while he was staying at home on the issue that was questionable, the $250,000 in travel expenses, first of all, that was questionable since he's working from home. But secondly, Swalwell paid himself $33,517 during 9 months for watching his own children. I'm not kidding. For watching his own kids, he paid himself a babysitting fee of $33,000 while he stayed home. Yeah. And these are the people. Listen, if he's stealing from his own campaign, can you imagine what he's taking from you? We'll be right back.
It's on the clock. He hands it off. Finds a hole in the middle. Clear. Nothing but incredible. A touchdown for the win. I can't believe it.
Pizza, better with Pepsi. Empty lots at car dealers everywhere, except here. The selection you want is at Greenville Nissan. And during the Nissan Thrill of the Drive sales event, buy a new Nissan with financing as low as 0.9%. The versatile Nissan Rogue, the all-new Pathfinder, or gas-saving cars like Nissan Sentra and Altima. And yes, we have trucks. Buy the new Nissan Titan with 0.9% financing, or the all-new Frontier for $99 a month. Hurry to Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Well, my baby does gives me special love. It's the kind of stuff.
Honey, it's your turn.
I'm on cloud nine.
Pizza, better with Pepsi.
Back to news and views. Talk 96.3 and 103.7.
So yesterday, just as we're going off, I mentioned this New York Times Senia college poll that just came out late yesterday. Digging down a little bit deeper into it, this is a huge swing for Republicans. I mean, this is huge. In just 30 days, independents have moved 9 points in favor of Republicans. 9 points, along with women, 13 points, and independent women, 32 points. The Republicans lead Democrats among independents by 10 points, among independent women by 18 points. I mean, these swings are huge. The polling suggests independents and female voters have shifted their support behind Republicans in large part due to the Democrats' record high inflation and specifically soaring costs at the grocery store, according to the Pew Research Center. Their analysis, 80% of mothers say they are the primary grocery shopper for the household. Interestingly, Nancy Pelosi, I mentioned this earlier, she was on MSNBC, Andrea Mitchell Reports, and she dismissed it. Now, this is the New York Times. I mean, this is the thing that they genuflect to, the New York Times. And yet, when this bad polling comes out, Pelosi just dismisses it. Well, first of all, let me say that I think that much of what you have said I don't agree with, she said to Mitchell. The New York Times poll, I think it's an outlier. You cite one poll, but it's all the other polls. Well, all the other polls are saying the same thing. Now, granted, this one is the most recent, and it's a pretty huge swing, but all the polls are pointing in this direction, Nancy. All of them. This one, perhaps by a larger margin, but all of them are pointing that way. Keep whistling through the graveyard, Nancy, and pack your bags. I understand you're going to be the new Italian ambassador for Joe Biden. Anyway, go over and enjoy the wine. I'm sure your husband will, and see you later, alligator. We'll do it again tomorrow at 5 o'clock. We'll see you then. By the way, it's going to have a special individual running for the state house with us tomorrow at 5:20. Look forward to having you with us and him as well. See you then. Bye-bye, everybody.
All right.
Reserve your ride before it's gone at Greenville Toyota. A huge Toyota shipment is here.